Rosie, I had a question though. Why? So because you got drafted. You got drafted by Dallas. And I mean, you would have had a long NBA career. I mean, just how, I mean, you could run, you could jump, you block shot, you could move. I mean, that's the way the game was going upwards, you know? And so why did you decide to go overseas instead of staying in the NBA?
So our sophomore year, Syracuse University went to Italy. We went there, we played in these tournaments, we played in 3 tournaments. And in the first 2 tournaments, I made the all-tournament team. And the 3rd tournament, I was the MVP of the tournament. Now we were playing with their pros. And I was 7 feet, about 200 pounds at that time. And so the Europeans are really good at following people once they get to meet them. So I come back and I play, we do pretty well. Going into January, I think we're ranked number 2 in the country. Played against Purdue, number 1. We go there, we beat them. And then there's all this talk, and then I end up getting drafted by Dallas. And so, and it was an expansion year. I mean, that's literally the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
For a long time. So you got to remember, at Kendall, we're 65-1. At Syracuse, we won 100 games. We lost 18 games. I didn't lose 20 games in damn near a decade. And if I went to the Mavericks, I was going to have to learn how to lose. So keeping that in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, I'm not afraid. I'll go there. I'll work hard. So I ended up, Norm Sandu, the GM of the Mavericks, had a camp up in the Adirondacks. So he gave me a call. He was up in the Adirondacks. I hopped in the car. I drove up there. Tommy Lagarde was up there and a couple of other guys. We played a little basketball and stuff. And so, and something that Norm Sandu said to me, as soon as he said it, I knew I was going to Italy. So so we're up there talking, and I said, I've traveled to. I know I've got to talk to some people from Italy, so it's possible I may end up in Italy. And he looked at me and he goes, I know it's always been your dream to play in the NBA. And anybody that knew anything about me knew it had always been my dream to be a successful businessman. I went to class every day. I mean, that's from day one. And that guy looked right in my face and he said that to me. I said, Jiminy Cricket, my life is in the hands of a guy that didn't even take the time to find out. If you would have asked anybody, they would have told him that. I started playing basketball when I was 14. How can it always been my dream to play in the NBA? It was my dream to play basketball, to get my education, to go into business, to be able to work for myself. He didn't even know that. And I was like, holy crap, this guy doesn't know anything about me. And when he said that, I just smiled and I turned around, and when I was getting in the car, I was like, I'm going to Italy. Because they had sent somebody over at the beginning of this, at the end of the school year, and they called me like every couple of weeks, and they would offer me more money. So, and in Italy, the full season is 32 games. You play 1 game a week. Yeah. And the same money that Dallas offered me, and I played 60 games less, or 50 games less a season. So it was in my mind, okay, you know what? I'm going to go over there and round out my game. I was pretty scared because at the time guys were going over there and they were getting drinking habits, overdosing, and all that kind of crazy stuff. And I remember sitting down there and I said, listen, I went through college. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I said, why am I going to start doing something that I'm not accustomed to doing? That's not the way that I was raised. So, hey, I grabbed a little backpack, had a pair of sneakers, put my family Bible in my bag and my boom box. And I went over to Italy, and that's where it all happened, because when he said, I know it's been your dream to play in the NBA, I was like, holy crap. I was like, well, I know I'm going this first year. And I remember my first 2 years in Italy. And then it was like the 13th and the 14th year. It just went,
So what happened for that to happen though? That first year, it was just like you fell in love with the playing and the lifestyle over there, or what?
So this is what happened. So I get there, and I'm a mama's boy. I was homesick. Eric, I remember sitting out. I was on the Adriatic, sitting out there looking out on the Adriatic. It was a beautiful night, and I was so homesick. I felt like I was gonna cry, and I said, "Boy, if you start crying, you will like melt away to nothing. Everything will just come out of you." So I was like, "Okay, I can hold this out," because you got to remember, there was no phone calls. The only kind of communication was a letter. It took 2 weeks to get there. So I remember sitting down there because Eric, I kept looking for the things in Italy that were worse than they were in the States. You know, the communication factor, all of those kind of things. So after about a week or so, I said, hold it. If I keep looking at all the things that are worse, I'll find them. But guess what? I'll be freaking depressed. So at that point, I said, you know what? I'm going to start looking for the things that the Europeans do that are different and possibly better than the way things are done in the States. So that's when I started doing it. And Eric, it was like night and day. My whole outlook changed. I became more curious, and I'm gonna tell you. So I get to Italy. I land, and the team owner and the general manager meet me at the airport. We get in the car. We go out to dinner. They take me to my house. They give me the keys to an apartment with a balcony so big I used to ride my bicycle around on it. And I'm on the Adriatic. And they gave me the keys to a Mercedes. They gave me 2 sheets of paper. They said, this is your practice schedule. This is your game schedule. The restaurant is down there. The gym is down there. And they shook my hand and they were gone. And they didn't come look for me. They didn't come. It was like, it was a sink or swim time. I didn't speak. I know how to say and ciao. That was it. And I tell you what, I figured it out. And then after a while, I said, you know what? I couldn't talk to anybody, but the one thing you always saw me with is a pad and a piece of paper. You do not want to go against me in Pictionary. I can communicate anything I want to anybody on the planet with a pen and a piece of paper. So I'm sitting in my apartment over there, and I'm like, man, okay. I said, that's it. I get my Mercedes keys. I got a pad, and I wrote down, because in Europe, all of the towns have a center of town marked on the map. So I wrote down Centro, and I drove to the Autostrada, and I held it up to the lady, and I went, and she went, and I went, and I was gone. And so so we played on Sunday. We had Monday. We had to be back for practice Tuesday afternoon. I went to a different city. I would drive to the center of town, and at the center of town, it's a zona pedonale. You can't go there by car. You have to park the car and go there by bicycle or walk. And so they always had a parking area there. So I would park. I'd go stay in a 5-star hotel, and I'd ask the concierge, "Where's the best restaurant?" And I did that for like a year. So I know more restaurants, hotels, and cities than most Italians do.
That's how you got to do it.
There are not 3 people in this country that know Italy better than I do. And then I learned how to speak the language, and it was so funny because I was with I played with Wilbur Holland. He actually played in Chicago. He's a 6'2" guard. He was 32 at the time. And I would eat at his house for like the first 4 months. Then his wife went home, and we were like, oh crap. So we go to the restaurant. This is my scenario. I go to the restaurant. As I'm walking in, I'm looking at what people are eating. And I learned how to say, what is that? I was like, "Cos'è questo?" And then the guy would say it to me, and I would learn the name of that meal, and then I would eat it for like a week. And then I said, "Okay, Bouie, you got to learn these meals faster than I'm not eating one meal for a whole week." So then I started getting better at that. And I started noticing that when I would always, since I had this big apartment by myself, I'd always leave the television on when I was go to sleep. And they were playing, like I watched Batman, there'd be like all the movies from back in the States, but they'd be speaking Italian. And I started noticing that after about 2 months, when I woke up, I would be dreaming about what was on television. I was dreaming about what was on television. I was like, how is it possible I don't speak Italian? But subconsciously, I started to understand. And then I started watching cartoons. And by watching cartoons, that's how cartoons are designed to teach our kids how to speak. So I started watching Italian cartoons. And 4 months later, and I got to be perfectly honest with you, because my routine for my pregame routine was I would get up that morning, I'd have breakfast, and I'd go outside and I'd wash my Mercedes. That's how I would relax. I'd clean it up, I'd spit shine it, and I'm down there washing it. This lady starts walking towards me. She's absolutely stunning. She walks right up to me and she talked for like 5 minutes. I didn't have my pad, my pen, nothing. And then I couldn't understand a word she said. She turned around, she walked away. And I said, that's it. I'm learning how to speak Italian. And 4 months later, I was speaking.
You don't want to. You're not gonna miss out on that again.
Like that, and you talk about feel absolutely helpless. I'm standing down there, and she walked across the whole place to come and talk to me, and didn't speak a lick of English. And then she stood there as long as she could, and finally she had a frustrated look on her face, and she walked away. And I turned and I looked in the mirror and I said, Mr. Bouie, that will never happen again. And from that point on, that language went into my head. And I was like a sponge. And the fact that I wanted to learn the language really opened up the hearts of the people in the area. So one of the other big things was, I was out there washing my car one day, and about 15 kids came running over to me. They're like, Senior Bouie, yeah? And they're trying to, and I couldn't understand them. The little boy takes me by the hand. There's probably 15 of them. They were 8 or 9 years old. So they take me over, and there was these trees, and there was this fruit up on the tree. And they had picked all the fruit that they could reach down low, and they brought me over there. So I picked all the fruit up high for them. And I gave them the fruit, and then one little boy broke it open and let me taste it. It was phenomenal. It was called kaki, but it was a really sweet, and I understood what they were talking about. So I had that little group of guys. So every time, and I had a bike, my president from Syracuse University, when I graduated, they bought me a bike. I wanted a bicycle. So I used to ride my bicycle all over the place. So these kids would see me anywhere, and they'd come over, and sit down and want to talk to me. So that was the first 15. And then after that, their parents would come over and say hi. And then, so by my first game, my first practice in Italy, Eric, I walked in the door, got my practice gear. I walk in the gym, there are 5,000 people in practice.
Wow. So what team was it? What team was it?
I played for a team of Pesaro, Scavallini Pesaro. They made, the team was owned by they made kitchenware, but it was it's one of the older teams in Italy. And I walked in there, but it's a seaport town. So when basketball season starts, everybody in the gym were either restaurant or hotel owners for a seaside resort. So by September, the seaside is closed. Everybody in that gym, I walked in there, I looked down, I was like, I forgot my uniform. And I looked around, I was like, no, this is practice. I was like, they come here for practice. Like, listen, you will never find another place like this in the world. 5,000 people there for our first practice.
Wow.
And it was crazy. It was a pretty wild experience. But that once you show them that you're willing, that you're willing to go out, and I had breakfast, I had lunch and dinner with 2 guys from my team like every day. And we talked all the time. And the one gentleman that I started playing with, his name was Walter Magnifico. He ended up being Mr. Europe like 12 years later. And I remember he asked me like 5,000 questions, because so when I first got there, he says, I was reading about you in the Sports Illustrated, and now you're here in front of me. This dude used to ask me like 4,000 questions. So in practice, I would break him down, I'd beat him with a move, and he'd ask me to explain it to him. I'd explain it to him, and he'd break it down and break me down and use it on me the next play. And so then I said, I got to deal with you. I will explain my moves after practice. You're not. I'm not telling you in practice, because he's like a sponge. You go down and do it, and we spent a lot of time together. And whenever I went out, he would have me go out with a group of them, and that's when I really understood the culture. You don't, even if everybody like I said, if there's 20 people in a room and 19 of them speak English, and one of them doesn't speak English, then all of your conversations are in Italian. Because they think the only reason for you to speak in English would be to say something you just want him to understand. And that's considered really rude. So that's how it all got started.